Blog Talk Radio.
Stone Guardian, Crystal Keeper, Gin Lovers Rockhound, welcome to There's a Rock for That.
Welcome everyone to There's a Rock for That. I am your host, Mary Brown, and today I have what I definitely feel is going to be a very special episode of There's a Rock for That for you all. But before we get into all the exciting things going on today, I want to let you know that There's a Rock for That is sponsored by the Tarot Guild, the international organization for tarot lovers, students, and professional readers since 2004. Check out the Tarot Guild by going to www.thetarotguild.com. And also, we are coming to you live on the Psychic Talk Radio Network. You can keep up with us by going to psychictalk.net. And you can also find all our upcoming shows, because we have a few different shows on here that are pretty interesting and different topics and wonderful hosts. And you can keep up with it by going to psychictalk.net/upcoming. Okay, so today the big topic we have to discuss is crystals for empaths. People that consider themselves empaths or, feel that they have a lot of empathy. And what is empathy? There's just a real short definition of empathy if you look in, like a dictionary, maybe Merriam-Webster. But what I found is empathy is mostly defined as the ability to understand and share the feelings of others, having a sensitivity towards the feelings of others. And, I had a little bit of a problem with that definition because I don't feel that it is always about understanding the feelings of others. I think it's impossible to look at anyone, whether we feel we're empathic or not, and say, oh, I understand how you feel completely. Because we don't. We're not inside of them. We don't know how the things that they're feeling are really resonating with them. What does it bounce off in the interior of their psyche? What echoes back to them. So I always felt like the definition out there for empathy should be changed, but it's definitely feeling and also sometimes sharing. And I think it's not just with other people. It can be with animals, plants, even crystals. And that's what I'm going to be talking about today, and just wonderful interview with the amazing Raven Digitalis. And some of you who also listen to some of our other shows on the network may have heard Raven. I think it was maybe a few months ago on the Tarot Today radio show, talking about his new Oracle deck that has come out, the Empaths Oracle. And it has just gorgeous, amazing artwork by Constantine Bax in it, and Raven wrote just a wonderful book that goes into so much detail on so many aspects of empathy. And that came out very recently from Llewellyn Publishing, and you can go to llewellyn.com to see the Empath Oracle. You can get it from there. You can also get it on Amazon and other booksellers. And and Raven has written so much about empathy. And let me tell you a little bit about him. I'm not going to give too much away from the interview, but let me tell you a little bit about him before we start listening to the interview. And Raven Digitalis is the author of Exploring the Empaths Oracle. Now, that's the book that comes with the Empaths Oracle deck and book set, right? He's also the author of The Everyday Empath and Esoteric Empathy. And we're going to talk a little bit about those books, especially in the interview. Also the author of Shadow Magic Compendium, Planetary Spells and Rituals, and Goth Craft. And I just recently got the book Goth Craft. I think it's out of print, sadly, but you should be able to find some copies out there. And if you were ever a goth or you consider yourself one now, it's the book to get. It's so wonderful. I don't think anybody's really dug into it. Being what it means to be a goth, and also the metaphysical and even spiritual, you could say, connections that are there with it or can be. So all of those books. Raven was originally trained in Georgian witchcraft. He has been a witch since 1999, a priest since 2003, a Freemason since 2012, and an empath all his life. He holds a degree in cultural anthropology from the University of Montana. He co-operated a non-profit pagan temple for 16 years and is also a professional tarot reader, DJ, card-carrying magician, and animal rights activist. And you can find him online by going to www.ravendigitalis.com, and you can find him on Facebook, Instagram. Just look for Raven Digitalis. So without further ado, let's listen to what Raven has to say today to you. Okay, and welcome, Raven Digitalis, to There's a Rock for That. I'm so excited you could come on the show today.
Oh, me too. It just worked out perfectly. And, you know, I'm telling you, synchronicities have been off the hook for me the last few months. And I ask other people, I'm like, is it just me? And they're like, yes, just you. I'm like, okay, I'll take that as a good sign of healing and getting into the flow state. And, you know, this is just another example. Like, I had a great time being on Tarot Today, and that was super fun.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and now to be a wee guest on your show, There's a Rock for That, is a pleasure. So thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. So, hey, I want to ask you, what stones are you wearing today? Are you wearing stones? Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Let's see. I have a no, I did work today also with my healthcare job. So I always wear a mala and a stone, at least one stone, as well as a mala. So when it comes to the, even though I'm both a pagan witch and also an American Hindu, so I balance those worlds, and, you know, my books on Llewellyn reflect that for sure, that kind of balance.
Yeah.
So, you know, whenever I go in public or go to work, for example, I will wear both. So I've got a mala made of Rudraksha beads, which are sacred to Lord Shiva and Lady Shakti, Durga, Devi. So that's not stone, but it's seed. And here in Hawaii, in Kauai Island, actually, there's a large Rudraksha forest here with huge Rudraksha seeds that people can pick from the ground and make prayers, and that's associated with the Kauai Hindu monastery here. And epic, big organization, hundreds of acres, and just lovely swamis.
Wow.
Lovely guru over there. But anyway, the stone that I'm wearing today is chrysoprase. Chrysoprase? How do you say that?
I call it chrysoprase, but I've heard chrysoprase as well. But yeah, that's a beautiful, beautiful stone. What is it that why are you wearing it?
So I swapped a reading with one of my favorite psychics in the world, and also one of my favorite people in the world, Debbie Griggs, Griggs. She's a no-tools psychic, and if anybody wants to look her up, you can just look up Debbie Griggs online, but she has connections to Montana, where I'm from, similar area, and she and I became friends at the local psychic fairs there that we used to read at, and she would have lines out the door booked. Oh my gosh, just like, and she's celebrity psychic. I mean,
wow.
And I'm quite at that level, and my main gig, is writing. But anyway, she and I swapped a reading. Oh, and I'm just about to send her a copy of my Empaths Oracle deck. She just ordered one from me. I'm so stoked about that.
Oh, wow.
But yeah. Anyway, she, after I gave her her tarot reading, I used the Toss deck, like we discussed. She gave me her no-tool psychic reading, and it was incredible, for one. And then for two, one of the things that came through, and this was last year, was to wear a necklace of chrysoprase, and
wow,
or however you say it. And so I've got the chipped bead necklace on of that. And so from what I understand, and I'd like to ask you what your perspective is on it. But I understand that it helps with eloquence. It's green, so it helps with the heart chakra naturally. And what else can you tell me about that?
It's such a beautiful stone to begin with, and because the green stones, of course, are going to be associated with the heart chakra, but it's also, it energizes the heart chakra and the sacral chakra as well, with this idea of so say you're wearing it as a necklace, right? But if you put it, say you took it off as a necklace and just decided to lay there with it, like on your either sacral chakra or your heart chakra, and just visualize it bringing in universal energy into your physical body. It's a great stone to use that way on those two chakras, and also, it's got a calming aspect to it, and can really assist in so many different ways. It's kind of like, there's so many different associations with each stone, but it really comes down to our relationship to the stone and what we need, connecting to what it has to offer. So it's going to be different for everybody.
That's a really good point. Especially because that reminds me a lot of herbal witchcraft and magic, and using different things for different things. Like, for example, I have Florida water here, which is a hoodoo component. Yeah. And Florida means flower, so Florida water just means flower water in essence, not actually the state necessarily, but it does have some associations there because it's still the South. So with hoodoo, Florida water synchronicity again. I just researched it today, today, and I just for a refresher. and I see just a multitude of uses for it. So I like with, stones, with herbs, with any kind of tools that help, especially earth-based tools that really help our focus.
Yeah.
We can access, like you said, like particular parts of their energies. Yeah, that's so magical.
Yeah.
And as I have this crystal praise on my sacral right now, I can feel what you mean. And I wouldn't have thought that this would be helpful for the sacral, just because I know associations with the colors more than anything. But I feel it and it works, and that's a chakra that I definitely need to continue to maintain. So,
absolutely. Absolutely. Another psychic miracle.
Yeah. But yeah, what you got on?
Oh, I am. Well, I often wear hematite, just as a necklace. I'm going to talk to you about that in a little while when we get into like stones for empaths and empathy, because it's one of the reasons that I wear that. And then I have a leopard skin jasper bracelet on that I really like. It's got a protective quality to it. It's like, I just think like, yeah, I got a leopard right here, man. Bring it,
Got it. Yep.
And then howlite is another one too, just like the white howlite one. And then Preseli bluestone, from the Preseli Mountains, that they use the bluestones came from for Stonehenge, and then an opal ring, and I'm holding a piece of snowflake obsidian. Okay, see what happens when you ask me what stones I'm wearing.
Well, it sounds like you've got a good team of support occurring at the moment.
I do, and I don't know about you, but I think, kind of the story that you told about how you came to be wearing the crystal praise is kind of a good example for people, because, we can read a book or watch a video on YouTube, and, there's like, I don't know, thousands and thousands of stones in the world. And, but I think it's the ones that sort of come into our lives more personally, like crystal praise did for you, that I think that's how we really develop our good team, is like the ones that actually connect to us, or there's an extra thing other than, opening a crystal dictionary and, pulling out a word, and finding the stone.
That's so true. Yeah, that's something that I've been synchronistically, of course, talking about to a number of people is the value of experience, experientialism, and how mystical and metaphysical people really, if they're, very, more grounded and not just completely open to everything and airy-fairy, can actually focus on and discern through experience what resonates, because not just like medicines, just like anything, everyone's different, every body is different, but at the same time, like, most people respond to Benadryl by getting knocked out, including me, and that's why I won't take it. So there's some things that are overarching, I think, metaphysically and physiologically, but and to expand on the synchronicity thing again, I just grabbed the Everyday Empath, which is my second book in my Empathy trilogy, and I opened it to the Gemstones for Empaths section, because, like most writers, I'll write things and then I'll forget what the hell I wrote, because on the project for 807 now, and this so it actually opened to crystal praise. And Yeah, so in the Everyday Empath, what I wrote from research before I hand this necklace is, okay, crystal praise, this green form of chalcedony, I'm not sure.
Chalcedony, yeah.
Chalcedony, okay, is believed to shield its wearers from all manner of external negativity. Crystal praise additionally helps the wearer maintain a bit more balance in chaotic conditions while helping replace stressful energies with optimism. Hey, well,
nice.
That's what I feel. That is literally what I feel when I wear it. So thank you, former me, for writing this. And then thanks to you for helping clarify it, too.
Well, let's talk about, these stones for empaths, because, I think that, it is one of the tools. It's like I feel like, and I feel like I'm an empath, and I have felt like kind of bummed out sometimes the way that empathy is discussed. Is almost like it's saying we have some sort of disability or something. Do you know what I mean? Where it's like I can't go anywhere because I'm an empath. Like I've heard like.
I know. I've been there. And it's been there so deep. I was guided to write books, and one that I just mentioned, the Everyday Empath, is also on Audible as an audiobook and also translated into Spanish. It's really nice.
Wow.
And then my Empaths Oracle deck with Constantine Bach, buddy in Germany who did the art, recently came out, and I have a card in there that's specifically about gemstones and herbs and other items specifically for empaths. So I discuss these things in all three, my whole Empaths trilogy. And, and there's some like really commonalities between empaths when it comes to the stone. So I'll talk to fellow empaths, and for listeners, empathy, just like psychic, just like medium, is a title. We all have varying degrees of these things, and so whatever term we feel is empowering and self-referential, I feel that's a good thing. So, me and you, we can use the term empath, and I'm sure many of the listeners can too.
Yeah.
Or even psychic. I don't call myself a psychic. Some people call me psychic because of my tarot readings, but I'm like, I don't know if that's considered psychic. I don't know. I'm kind of on the fence about that. That's a different conversation.
Me too. Right? But, and I think that, to me, it's a gift. I think it's empowering, and I think that it also, like, when you have the things out there like crystals and herbs and different techniques and stuff that can help to better manage and to stay balanced and to stay grounded with a kind of gift that maybe sometimes you feel like you're reaching beyond your physical body in certain spaces. Does that make sense?
That's true. I worked with herbs in a metaphysical before working with gemstones, not only because it seemed so trendy, but at the time, but also because I wasn't sure how they were sourced and knowing where they come from, and I don't want to wear a stone where anybody has incurred suffering in its production to come to me. So do you have any tips on it? Because I'm not sure how to approach that.
Right. Well, It's an interesting thing. Yeah, you don't want to be wearing a blood diamond, right? You know, that's the worst case in a sense, or the most familiar to most people. But yeah, ethically sourcing crystals, you know, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. It's not always easy to do. And you have to really have a sense of who you're buying from, who you're dealing with. It's harder in the digital space, right? Because we're just buying on Amazon or eBay or something. Sometimes, you know, we don't know that much about the sellers. There's some great sellers on there though, and they'll usually say, you know, how their materials are sourced. But the best thing ever is if you can go to a shop and, you know, or any buyer, whether it's online or in person, you should be able to ask them where their stones came from. And they should be able to tell you. And if they can't tell you, then already, you know, we're kind of not sure, you know.
Right.
Gym shows are great because those people know where they just dug those stones up from or who they dealt with, you know.
Right.
But
kind of like farming, if we know if the farmer of our eggs and the rancher of our cows, it's like that's number one.
Yeah, but there's another way too, and this is something that I know a few people out there are contemplating. I remember, I don't know, a couple of years ago having Christiana Gaudet on, and we were talking about this, and just the idea of, okay, crystals, you know, we don't always have to be connected to them physically, you know. We can look at a picture. It's sort of you know, maybe a kind of magic, maybe, but you know,
magic, yeah.
You know what I mean? Like if we can, in our mind, picture, and it helps to look at pictures online or whatever, you know, and we can imagine, like, even just in our mind, like the stone underground naturally in the earth, and send ourselves to it. Try to feel the energy of whatever particular stone it is, you know, learn about the stone, find out where it's located, where people dig them, where they're found, and send yourself, you know, kind of in a meditative thing to that stone, find it under the ground in your mind's eye, and form that bridge and that connection. And that's a way that nobody gets hurt when it comes to connecting.
Oh, that is brilliant. It's so true, and I have heard and even practiced a couple times the same thing with certain herbs, magical herbs. That makes total sense.
See?
And I'm getting what they call in Hawaii chicken skin goosebumps.
Oh, yeah.
which only happens when the spirits are saying, listen to what this person is saying, or you're saying the right thing, make them listen to you during the reading.
I love that.
Yeah, yes, I'm listening to what you're saying, and I'm going to actually activate that more. Activate that with stones, because that is such a brilliant idea, and that is completely, it could absolutely be called magic. That it is magic, and the same way that I would connect with an herb. Now, so that reminds me, just as an aside, that homeopathy works in a similar way as energy medicine, right?
Yeah.
However, I am completely anti-homeopathy. I'm not as anti-homeopathy as I am anti-circumcision, but I'm definitely anti-homeopathy because not a single molecule of the original substance is retained in the little sugar pills or drops or depositories.
It's tricky. We want it to be. We want it to work so badly.
Right, but we can do the exact thing that you just said
Yeah.
and have probably even a better effect because we're actually meditating and connecting to the invisible web of life.
Right?
Instead of popping a sugar pill.
Exactly.
So,
Exactly. It's just, I mean, it's almost like the same thing, only you're not buying the product. You know?
Yeah. Okay. Well, there you go, listeners. That's how you save money. Don't do homeopathy. Don't do homeopathy, kids. It's bad for you.
Yeah, we just saved you. But you know, everything that you've written on empathy and the Empath Oracle, you know, we talked about that on the Tarot Today radio show, and for our Tarot Guild members and whoever, the review and walkthrough of the deck is still available in the video section and on my YouTube channel, Tarotdactyl's Nest. And you know, it's like an endless topic, because you've written like, wow, esoteric empathy is like just the list. Every day empathy, you know, it's really kind of, there's no end to it, do you think?
It's one of those things. I mean, the term empathy itself is only in the English language at this point about 160 years old.
Wow.
So, I mean, that is really damn new in human history, to recognize that force as an actual term. And parentheses, even terms like heterosexual, homosexual, bisexual, were not recognized until something like the 1940s. I mean, geez, this is early. I mean, this is recent stuff. End of parentheses.
Yeah.
But there's so much that, so many terms and things like that can be easily taken for granted, but at the same time, that doesn't mean there's anything wrong with that. I think people gain empowerment and awareness through that, and especially when it comes to empathy, because it is not just meta science. It's not just metaphysics. It's not just occultism. It's very, very much scientific. We have mirror neurons in our brains, or they might have a different name now, but we're called mirror neurons, and certain brain activity that's clearly empathy in action. It's literally empathy, and that's the way that humans and other species and cultures evolve. Because if we didn't have empathy for each other, it would just be a disaster. Like, that would not be an evolutionary advantage. So empathy is very, physically evolutionary, and obviously it's meant too. So it's
Well, what's your favorite, like if you get approached by people and they ask you, like, what can I do? Is there, like, what stone? Because you've written about stones for empaths. Like, what's your favorite go-to, or is there a go-to?
Well, first I should mention actually that, and you reminded me when you said hematite or hematite. I like hematite. I don't know the pronunciation, but who cares?
Right.
That I have 10 piercings in each of my ears, and the big plugs that are in the cartilage, pretty much like a hole puncher right through the middle of the ear. Both of the are hematite. So,
oh wow!
I actually have it directly on my skin, between my brain, on both sides, and that helps keep me grounded. So I don't need to wear a hematite necklace or anything else, because it's literally touching my flesh by way of the piercing plugs. That's recent. I got that here in Hawaii shortly after I moved here, kind of as a healing rite of passage to help ground down to my true self, ground to the land. I don't feel that hematite soaks up energy as much as something like onyx Would you agree?
I totally agree. I totally agree. There's something about onyx. I know. Like, I don't know. Right. There's something. I don't know. It's like it's got a weird energy signature to it.
And I agree. And obsidian, I feel similar.
I've got to ask you about obsidian, okay? Because you live in Hawaii, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I have heard some crazy stories about like people like taking obsidian and then, you know, like tourists or whatever, and like going, you know, home back to the States or whatever, and then, you know, having all this crazy stuff happen, and like it has something to do with Pele or something. Like, is that true?
I knew exactly where you're going with that.
You did?
That's very good. Yeah, basically don't take anything from Hawaii is the rule that, well, not anything. Okay, you can take shells, of course. I mean, those are discarded. Okay, the biggest thing are lava rocks. You don't take lava rocks from Hawaii, or it activates a curse from ancient God. So
really? Wow.
And so that's a big thing. And, you know, it's hard to say, like, how much of that is just psychologically worked up when people find out about that, how much of that is actual reality and actual, like, Goddess Pele. But honestly, I think, well, I should say, from experience, we're talking about experiential stuff earlier, these islands are just an anomaly in the world. Literally the most remote islands in the world. And as an empath, being surrounded by water for a gazillion miles is actually quite nice.
Right.
But yes, no taking lava rocks, especially, and a lot of people agree when it comes to sand and water from the islands and other stones. Shells are perfectly acceptable.
Yeah.
And I remember even visiting Maui. That was my first time ever. I'm in Kauai now, but I visited Maui as a young witchling at age 16, and I tried to bring back a vial, not knowing these things, after a little ceremony at the beach to thank the goddess of the ocean. Bringing back a vial of ocean water, a vial of sand. These are small glass vials, and a vial of something else. I think it was some kind of plant matter, and I didn't, of course, know the laws of transportation at that time, but all of them broke in transit. And they were wrapped really well. The only thing that didn't get destroyed was my Maui Wowie cannabis. So that was nice.
That's good.
So at least there was not like it's not true. But,
yeah, you know, you had that to kind of soothe the pain of the other things breaking.
And here they call that pakalolo. Mm-hmm.
Pakalolo. But yeah, that's pretty amazing stuff, you know, because there seems to be so many stories about it, and and so that's one thing that I do tell people when we talk about sourcing stones is, like, you know, there's volcanoes all over the world. You know, get your Mexican obsidian, get your obsidian anywhere else, because something's going on in Hawaii.
It's you know, and that's the thing. Hawaii will tell people when to leave, and
really,
if they follow that, she will make sure they leave. So or she'll make sure they stay. And I'm very thankful for allowing me to stay. You know, the Aina and the Prana, the Mana, which is Hawaiian Mana, the Shakti of this island, and really all the islands are, you know, interconnected. I'm honored to be here as a healing place, and also to help people locally and remotely, and be able to work on my projects here, and everything just synchronized perfectly to have me here, and it really is a blessing. And there is one stone I wanted to tell you about called Hawaiian Mana Organite, Orgonite. And with Organite, it's perfectly fine to transport off the island. But once again, with synchronicity, I just found the card that describes it as this gorgeous orange stone, which I just dropped on the ground. But I'm sorry, it forgives me. So the flyer that comes with it, the little info sheet. At the metaphysical store here that also sells my books and
cool.
Which is wonderful. So it says here, Orgonite energy contains quartz crystal, other gemstones, and metals in resin which convert negative or stagnant electromagnetic energy into positive orgone energy, which is beneficial to humans, animals, and plants.
That's great.
But it's a very special stone, and
and what's it called again?
From what I hear, Orgonite, Hawaiian Mana energy Orgonite, O-R-G-O-N. I believe. That's what it is. But and I think I have the right reference card here. I'm pretty sure that's what this is. But it's an orange stone, orange yellow, and on top of it, I have actually grabbed the wrong card. If so, I apologize. But it only comes from Hawaii, and it's totally fine to transport elsewhere.
Wow. So
there's
some things that you can take from Hawaii, and the ones you can't, well, they let you know about it. Something lets you know about it.
It seems that it's volcanic. If it's volcanic based, then Pele is not happy with those transportations. But anyway, you were asking about go-to stones for empaths, and gotta say, black tourmaline.
Yeah,
that's the one. I call it the empath stone, or the empath's emergency stone. The thing about that, in my experience, and I'd love to hear about yours, is that I myself and many other empaths, and I recommend it in my book, have a necklace or bracelet or something that is exclusively that stone, not mixed with other ones, just for that energy. So it is like putting up a brick wall. So is what I find, and it cuts off emotional exchange, empathic energy between others. So when wearing, literally, that's my experience, as experience of others. I don't have any reason to doubt that. But black tourmaline, it doesn't absorb. It's a complete reflector and defender. And so the only time that I'll wear that stone is if I'm feeling anxiety attack, overwhelmed, and have public things to do and need completely to be in only my energy and not interact with others, because it really does dampen the empathic exchange, which is purely emotional. So what are your thoughts about black tourmaline?
Well, it's really interesting. I have to say, that, it makes so much sense hearing you say it that I'm like, oh, yeah, duh. Duh. I'm smacking my forehead, right? But, I didn't think of it in terms of empathy. It's probably the number one stone that I recommend to people that are, having, really, one is the fear of it, but also really feel like they're being affected by, EMF, electromagnetic frequencies. you know, from technology, computers and stuff. And I recommend that they put some black tourmaline pieces around their computer, you know, if they spend a lot of time working at their computer station.
Good idea. And, you know, growing up as a young metaphysicist, I only heard of dark quartz for doing that. Sorry, no, not dark quartz, like, black quartz. What's it called?
Yeah, like smoky quartz.
Smoky quartz. Yeah. So I only heard of that doing that for computers and technology stuff. But that would make sense that tourmaline would also do that.
Yeah, and because of that dampening quality that you were talking about with emotions, yeah, I have found that it does that with I feel like any interference, you know, any sort of either electromagnetic or energetic interference, that's one thing. And there's something about the black stones, the dark stones that can really be helpful with transmuting any sort of negative energies too. I think like one of my favorite things to do, because I do Reiki, is to use like a black kyanite fan to just sweep the body, you know, just sweep it and kind of sweep the aura to kind of just cleanse it. I use it like a broom almost, you know.
Really, the black kyanite, you know, I'm not familiar with that at all.
Yeah. Oh, I'll have to send you something on that so you can see it shapes in these little blades. So it kind of can look like a fan. So you already have that concept of waving it, you know. At least I do. I don't know how many people think about that. But yeah, you know, but tourmaline, that is so brilliant. That makes total sense to me.
Yeah. And you know, with my Empathy trilogy, my first book, which is my number one heart baby, is Esoteric Empathy, and that's for people who, you know, are more familiar with paganism, Wicca, magic, deeper metaphysics, things like that. And, you know, the everyday empath, like I mentioned, is more for everyone, more digestible. And same with the Empaths Oracle decks that just got released a couple months ago, too. Extremely amazing. But in my Esoteric Empathy book, which I'm opening now, I have a lot more stones listed and materials of the earth listed than I do in the others, such as, let's see here, salt.
Salt. Yeah.
Just plain old salt as a, I mean, it's not ice. Is that considered? No, that's not considered a stone. No, it's just a mineral.
Yes. Hey. Well, look, there's halites, right? HALITE,
right.
which are the big salt crystals, you know, that they make salt lamps out of and stuff.
Oh yeah, the Himalayan salt, the pink salt.
Yeah. So you know, it is, you know, it's a mineral, but it's also, you know, there's salt crystals, and that is that's what, I have a big chunk of that, right, that I take with me everywhere. And what I do is, you know, I'll do tarot readings, at an event or something, and between each reading, between each client, I literally I'll lick it. Well, that, and also, right. And, you know, I have a weird story about licking salt. But also what I'll do is I'll rub my hands like I'm using it like a bar of soap, you know, because we work so much with our hands when we do tarot readings. And so that was my way of sort of cleansing in between clients, and lick it. But, you know, also salt that not in Hawaii, lucky you, but probably before, what you said, you were from Montana, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know what snow is. You've seen snow. And they salt the roads, right? I don't know if they do it in Montana, but I grew up in Pennsylvania.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah.
And if they didn't, there would be a quarter of the population car crash. So.
Right. Everybody would be wiped out if they did it. And when I was a kid, I grew up on a farm, and we leased part of our property to the Department of Transportation, and they stored their big salt pile there. And I used to go, and I was licking I was keeping it, eating the salt that they put on the roads. Nobody told me not to, But it's so gross, right? And yes,
that's a different thing. Yeah, that's not salt. It's an salt.
Probably something really bad.
Yeah.
I don't know why I find it hilarious, right? Ooh, it's so gross. Let me share with the world. Oh my God! But
we all glue at some point.
salt. I mean, it's so ancient, right? It's so ancient to me. Yes, cleanse, protect. Put a barrier up with salt. And
not to mention, the cooking, the ingestion of it, the preservational usage of it, and when it comes to empathy, and same for even psychic powers, metaphysical powers, with Wiccan circles, with so many things. A circle of salt, or just sprinkle around the salt, throw it over your left shoulder. Just put it on your head before you go take a shower. Put it in the bathroom. So many uses. It's super duper protective all around. And here in Hawaii, we have packs available of samples here's black salt, here's red salt, here's regular Hawaiian sea salt, here's this and that.
Wow.
It's holy cow.
And that's a great one too, because everybody can get that. They don't have to go to a special store necessarily. You can find specialty salts even at higher end grocery stores.
Oh, that's a good point. You can, huh? Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. And so, what's the third crystal you'd recommend for empaths?
Well,
we got tourmaline, we've got salt.
Right. So we've been discussing more of the dark stones that reflect or absorb mostly, or deflect or reflect external emotional energies, which is imperative for empaths from time to time. But we also need stones that uplift us and that are very light-based.
Yeah.
And so even though I'm a total goth, and my first book was called Gothcraft, which you
and I've been reading it. Yeah. I love it.
That is my one book that's going to be a time capsule and never reprinted. But I am reprinting Shadow Compendium. It's been a lot of work, and I have to finalize tonight, as time of this recording, my final edits on Shadow Magic Compendium with a new publisher in Chicago called Crossed Crow Press. Crossed like crossroads and crow like the bird. And these guys are just magnificent, and it's quite an honor. Actually, I did a prayer spell saying, okay, the author writes to these books reverted to me after 10, 12 years, and show me the publisher. I don't want these to gather virtual dust. And a month later, boom. So,
wow.
Hey, I'll take it. And it's just been wonderful ever since. But anyway.
Supposed to happen.
Yeah. So naturally, I'm going to focus on the darker, the darker stones and things like that. But I cannot highly enough recommend Moonstone because, which comes so many different flavors, so to speak. Because the moon is the internal landscape, and as any astrologer could say, or any witch could say, or metaphysical practitioners of all varieties, really, the moon represents the internal landscape, like the sun represents the external. So anything to do with moon and sun, which I know the moon's not a planet, but it was considered so classically.
Yeah.
So I would say anything to do with moon and sun are very beneficial for empaths, in addition to those darker stones that are reflective and deflective or absorptive. So, because I need to balance, like, my buddy here got me what's called a sunstone for my birthday. I had never heard of that, and I'm still not even sure what it is. Do you know what that is?
Yeah, I have sunstone. Yeah, and it's gorgeous. I love how it kind of it's shimmery, right? Your sunstone. Yeah, and it can be, yellow, orange, kind of a reddish brown color. But really joyful, uplifting energy, and clears all the chakras, bringing in light and energy. And it's really good for stimulating our own sort of natural self-healing power, if that makes sense.
It does, because when I wear it, and it's interesting that he gifted it to me as a choker, not quite a choker, but just beneath, so it's like barely dangling at the heart chakra area, and it really feels uplifting. So I'll wear that when I'm feeling like crap and have stuff to do. And it legitimately appears to work as objectively as possible as I can say. Like, and I'll forget that I'm wearing it, and I'll be like, oh, maybe that's part of the reason I'm feeling better now. It's like,
it could be. It could be. I always say, we don't have to know everything or believe in the powers of crystal healing or worship the crystal, devas or anything for crystals to do their job.
Right, exactly.
They do what they do. They, we connect with them, they connect with us, and, sometimes we don't even have to think too much about it or use a lot of intentionality. But hey, it's almost time to go. I wanted to make sure everybody knows how to get a hold of you. Where can they find you?
Well, I'm very easy to get a hold of, and folks, I also do professional tarot readings, so you can reach out to me anytime. I do a sliding scale, and you can just find me under Raven, like the bird, and Digitalis, like the plant foxglove. Raven Digitalis at gmail.com or www.ravendigitalis.com, facebook.com/ravendigitalis, instagram.com/ravendigitalis, lowercase, one word. And, that can be looked up on Amazon, Goodreads, Barnes & Noble, Llewellyn.com, Llewellyn Books. I'm very easily accessible.
Yay!
So, and I happen to have a few extra copies of my Empaths Oracle right now. They're first come, first serve until this little supply is gone, but I'm always happy to sign things for folks, and I always encourage supporting one's local bookstore, metaphysical shop, wherever you live.
Absolutely. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for taking the time out of your enormously busy schedule, writing and all those things.
Indeed. You're very welcome. And speaking of, I think I have at least 2 deadlines tonight.
Oh, wow.
So I better that. It is a pleasure to talk with you, and I hope your listeners enjoyed, and thanks for doing what you do. I sure appreciate it. I appreciate you, and I can't wait to do it again.
Yeah, you got to come back. We've got so much more to talk about. Probably more than we know. Thanks so much, Raven. Bye-bye.
Namaste. Bye.
Namaste. All right. Well, I hope you all enjoyed that wonderful things and everything that Raven Digitalis had to share with us today. And I thought I'd also share with you that the card I posted of the week for this week is from Oracle, again by Raven Digitalis, with art by Constantine Bax. And I thought this was really interesting and something for you all to consider and maybe work into your routines this week. The card I drew, the title is Healing with Mother Nature. Gorgeous, gorgeous, gorgeous art by Constantine Bax on this card, and really every card in the deck. And the message, healing with Mother Nature, can be interpreted in a few different ways. What Raven suggests in the book that comes with the deck, the book has its own title, Exploring the Empath Oracle. What he suggests is that this is a good time when this card comes up to seek healing from Mother Nature. And sure, that can take some planning to do, to go out maybe to a national park or something. Go ahead and do the planning. Don't come up with excuses to stop you from doing it. There's no point in living in a 9-to-5 world, as Raven says here, if we don't have a little bit of reprieve to restart and reset. And for empaths, this is absolutely vital. So there's lots of ways you can do it. Do some immersion into nature by taking a nature walk, or, even if that kind of thing is not accessible to you, go outside. Just, connect with the sky above you, the trees around you, the grass beneath your feet, and really, do some mindfulness with that. Feel the energies of nature around you. And, other than like getting out there and getting with the elements, so to speak, Raven also suggests, and I found this really interesting, he suggests that this card also encourages us to physically exercise. And whether it be physical yoga, cardiovascular exercise, or strength building, the process of exercising connects a person with their own body. Our bodies, of course, are an extension of the natural order. And I don't know that I've thought about it in that way previously, or if any of you have thought about that too, the idea of our own bodies being an extension of nature, of the natural order. We're part of nature, no matter how technologically advanced we have become. That doesn't take us out of the circle of life on this planet, So just some things to consider. And if you're someone who says like, oh, I don't like exercising, or I can't do it, I have a physical problem, my knees don't work, or I can't lift anything, that's okay. Just move. Just some movement. To what extent that you can, get up and move your body. If you're sitting on the couch and watching TV, that's fine. Just get off the couch and watch TV. Do some exercises while you're watching TV on the couch. Move your legs, move your arms. Just move it, people. Get moving. Keep it moving. So that card of the day can be found by going to the Radio Facebook group. You can find that easily by going to psychictalk.net/Facebook. And we have a page and a group. Join the group, like the page. And there's also a page and a group for our sponsor, the Tarot Guild. You can, and we have a website too, thetarotguild.com. But you can find us on Facebook, and again, like the page, join the group. All good stuff there in both places. So that's the card of the day. The picture of the card of the day is posted on the Psychic Talk Radio Facebook group, and just check out that gorgeous artwork by Constantine Bax. Wowzers. And also, since I'm talking so much about the Psychic Talk Radio Network, I thought I'd let you know what is coming up on the network this week. Now, first, one programming note, Spiritual Guidance Radio is on break for the summer, but the host of that show, the lovely Catherine Hahn, is going to return in September. So just keep that in mind if you're wondering, where's Catherine? She's taken a well-needed break and vacation, having a good time, doing some fun things, and is so excited to come back in September. Our next show is actually going to be next Saturday, July 9th, 11 a.m. Pacific, 2 p.m. Eastern, and that is the Tarot Today radio show with myself and the lovely Dax Carlisle. We will be taking your calls for free mini tarot readings, so that's going to be quite exciting. And then after that, Sunday, July 10th at 11 a.m. Pacific, 2 p.m. Eastern, it's the Magic Universe show with your host, Sharona Rapsick, and she is going to be having a special guest on, the amazing Sasha Graham, and they are going to be talking about the Rider-Waite-Smith Tarot and also taking your calls for free tarot readings. And again, you can keep up with us and what shows are coming up and when by going to psychictalk.net/upcoming. And now I would just like to take a few minutes because I know the show's running long, but I had too much fun talking to Raven that I just couldn't stop talking to him. But every month, we talk about a crystal of the month. I'd like to, sometimes I choose these intentionally, I think, and other times it's more intuitively, or crystal kind of raises its hand and has something to, offer for that month. And this month, it's just kind of like the larger category of meteorites. And, interestingly enough, I was thinking about the stone of the month came up to me first, before everything else fell in place, to talk about empathy with Raven and stones for empathy. And I've been kind of thinking, why? What is the connection between meteorites and empathy? And it really occurred to me that, for one thing, meteorites are sort of, I would say, more than other categories of stones or crystals. They're one category that I have noticed for myself and for a lot of sensitive people, some of which who are empaths as well. We have a strong reaction to meteorites. We feel something in the way that, it doesn't always happen with other crystals or other kinds of stones. I mean, you feel something, but sometimes that something is more vague or like a gentler kind of energy. And with meteorites, there's a stronger thing. And so connecting that to empaths and empathy, I kind of feel like, one, it's sort of almost like a reminder when you encounter a meteorite, because it's sort of like, your empathy sensors, your sensitivity meters internally just kind of go off. You can feel that, and sometimes it's too strong. I mean, moldavite is a very popular type of meteorite found in the Czech region. That's where it's sourced from. That's where that Moldova too is probably an origin of the name of the stone. But it's too strong for me. It's a beautiful stone, but I can't handle it. I can't handle wearing it. And I know other people that can't either. And yet I know some that is like the perfect stone for them. Like they can't get enough of it. And I think that there's a good chance that if you consider yourself someone who has maybe a deeper connection in some way to space, to the stars, to the outer reaches, what's beyond our planet, star children, star beings, sometimes people call themselves. I think that meteorites are really good stones for people that have those, that identify that way or have that strong sense of that's a part of themselves as the stars. And so that's one reason, I think, for empaths, just that, this, I don't know, check out some meteorites. If you can go to a shop where they have some and you can actually like feel and touch the stone and just, pay attention to the sensation of it. I think that's just a cool thing to do. Also, of course, we're talking about different forms of communication associated with meteorites. Okay, and that is, again, that could be extraterrestrial communication, that can be ancient star beings, that can be, ancestral in some deep way, or past lives, especially with meteorites. And there's so many different kinds. I'm not going to get too much into them. Tektites is another type of stone. I've talked about those on this show before. One of my favorite meteorites that I have are the Nantan, Nantan meteorites, and those, they landed near the city of Nantan in Guangxi, China, in like the 1500s, and the way it was described, it was really written down here. It's interesting. During summertime in May of Jiajing, 11th year, stars fell from the northwest direction, 5 to 6-fold long, waving like snakes and dragons. They were as bright as lightning and disappeared in seconds. So I connected to the idea of dragons, for one thing. And if you are somebody who feels connected to dragon energy or even snakes, that might be a good meteorite for you. It feels like very, very protective, I mean, there's just something about it to me, and especially for travel, too. And it's someone that is passionate and goal-oriented, and it's a meteorite associated with leaders and doers and people that are fierce warriors in whatever way that shows up for them. And it's an iron meteorite too, so there might be something about the iron aspect of it as well. So there's different things that are make up different types of meteorites that's always worth checking into as well. And if you're interested to kind of do a little bit of research and see which ones you connect with. And of course, as always, I'd love to hear about your experiences. And you can always reach me through the Tarot Guild, thetarotguild.com/Mary. It's as simple as that. Shoot me a message. All right. And really, we're a little bit past the hour here, and this is the end, my friends, of today's show, and I hope you all enjoyed it. Everybody listening in the chat room and listening on their phone or listening on Blog Talk Radio or listening on the Tarot Guild website and listening on all the other other places that the show goes. We're on so many different podcasting forums, platforms, whatever they're called, and truly it's so much fun to be able to connect with so many other people that really enjoy the Crystal Kingdom as much as I do. So I wish you all a wonderful weekend, and in the United States, if you're celebrating the holiday, have a great, great time, a joyful time. And let that be the focus. Let that be the focus, people, please. Have a great time, everybody. Bye-bye.